really. Cannot see my face. It's visible. I don't see my face, but it's not so important because the most people knows my face already. And if you want really to see my face, you can just go on the pictures of the websites, while the other stuff you need to, while to see the streets you can't see anywhere else those moments. That's why my face is not important. I get a bit of low brightness. There is a lot of sun. It's a really good setting to bike now. This is the D-Day, which in American means the day of the happenings. The happening is that I should do at least 70 kilometers today, 100, nice, but maybe I do a bit less because I'm starting already late. I had to wait for the hotspots. Streets of Vilnius. Now I'm in Vilnius and the streets here are not the best. That's why the camera hanging on the bike may not be stable and may even fall down like last time. I have to make sure it's not moving. It's not getting out of the holder. I have a new phone holder which looks to be really good. This is actually a really good one. I cannot see if my face is on it, but great. Let's see a bit.
Tape of it, you can measure rather precisely the frequency of oscillation of the building itself. It takes 10 seconds for a World Trade Center to go through one cycle of oscillation.
This concludes the recording at the 67th floor Tower A projection room.
I can't know how much I have to say about it. I used to be extremely sound sleeper and the kind of put my head down on the pillow and go to sleep and sleep just a short while and get up and go back to work or do whatever. But it's kind of not like that anymore. I just but I don't have images of the Trade Center in my dreams. I do wake up with the thoughts in my head. I do, but it's sort of like instantaneous, and then as you wipe your eyes, you wipe the thought out of your mind. People keep saying, well, you did everything you could have done, the design was the best it could be, and all those thoughts, which are nice, but I guess ultimately the responsibility for the criteria for the Trade Center, those were my decisions. And the fact that they stood up as long as they did was because we true that the plane that hit it was a bit heavier and was flying a whole lot faster, and therefore a whole lot more energy was put into the building. I think it's a tribute to the people who worked on the project that they did as well as they did. And yet I know, as well as I'm here right this moment, that the buildings could have been made more solid. Sure, they could have been made stronger, and they could have stood up longer. And that was my decision, and that's. Performed in many ways admirably, but there's always that nagging thought that maybe you should have done something else. You know?
Nelson and Nikki Silva and me, Roman Mars. It's comprised of extracts and outtakes from the Peabody Award-winning Sonic Memorial Project produced in 2002. A new 10th anniversary edition of the Sonic Memorial Project, which is narrated by my literary hero Paul Auster, is going to be playing on public radio stations around the country. It is very much worth your time to seek out. You can find out more at kitchensisters.org. This program, 99% Invisible, is made possible with support from Lunar, making a difference with creativity. It's a project of KALW 91.7 local public radio in San Francisco, the American Institute of Architects in San Francisco, and the Center for Architecture and Design. Find out more at 99percentinvisible.org.
Welcome to Brain Stuff from HowStuffWorks.com, where smart happens.
Hi, and we're bringing today's question. What is Schadenfreude? Schadenfreude is one of those words that you hear about once a month, and because it's a German word, word up in the dictionary, the definition goes like this. It's satisfaction or pleasure felt at someone else's misfortune. There are lots of examples of schadenfreude on the web in particular. For example, the popular site Failblog is one way of experiencing schadenfreude. You get to see other people have accidents or other kinds of failures, and apparently this is incredibly popular because it's one of the most subscribed to and watched channels on YouTube. Schadenfreude is different from sadistic pleasure, where the person is actually causing the misfortune through cruelty. Sadism is defined as any enjoyment in being cruel. The person experiencing schadenfreude plays no role in causing the misfortune. She is simply the observer. The alternative to schadenfreude, of course, would be compassion, which is defined as a feeling of deep sympathy and sorrow for another who's stricken by misfortune, accompanied by a strong desire to alleviate the suffering. So why do we get pleasure out of another person's pain? Scientific American recently took a look at the whole phenomenon of schadenfreude, and it seems like it's wired in the brain towards in the article in Scientific American, they say scientists who study schadenfreude are learning that this seeking happiness at another person's loss has biological underpinnings, one of which there's in the brain is a distinct feeling of satisfaction and schadenfreude does not seem to be a particularly endearing feature. The article spirals downward from there, pointing out that people appear to be as bad as a group. Listeners agree when bad things happen to the opposition party. Or, if that feels odd, by race can use schadenfreude to encourage prejudice and prejudice. In some cases, schadenfreude can be more than jealousy really at another's misfortune, why not cause more misfortune for them yourself? What can you do to avoid this process? The article suggests recognizing schadenfreude as it happens, perhaps even discussing it and its effects with others in order to not let yourself experience the more intense misfortune. As the article puts it, this may help to avoid a slippery slope towards sadism or
Visit HowStuffWorks.com. Don't forget to check out the Brainstorm blog on the HowStuffWorks.com homepage. You can also follow Brainstorm on Facebook, Twitter, and the HowStuffWorks iPhone app has arrived. Download it today on iTunes.
This is 90% For the ancient Greeks, sirens were mythical creatures who sang out to passing sailors from rocks in the sea. Their music was so beautiful, it said, that sailors were powerless against it. They would turn their ships towards these seafaring sailors and crash into the waves. In Homer's Odyssey, there's a story where Odysseus and his men are traveling on a very big sirens. Odysseus knows that if he hears the siren song, his ship is going to sink. But he still wants to hear what they sound like, so he comes up with a plan. Odysseus has his men tie him to the mast so that he can't take control of the ship. Then Odysseus has his men fill their own ears with beeswax so they can't hear anything. The plan works. Odysseus gets to hear the sounds of his men, and they sail on to safety, with Odysseus pleading with his crew. And for over 2,000 years or so, that's what a siren was, a creature that made beautiful sounds. That all changed in 1890 when a French engineer, Charles Cameron, decided to call the artificial noise maker he was working on the siren. And this new mechanical siren became the signature sounds of sirens were able to emulate humming circle. Scientists try to create a composition, or symphony, in this little bit of Moscow-based producer Charles Maines investigated the legend of African. At first, this is the Symphony of Silence we're visiting.
Here's what I know. In November of 1923, a man named Arseny Abramov will climb onto a rooftop in central Moscow. He will be holding two flags. The day will be November 7th. The Soviet Union, the USSR, will be celebrating its 6th anniversary, the birthday of the one and only Bolshevik Revolution. This man, Abramov, is a communist. He's also a composer of music. And there on this roof near the Kremlin, he will link the two with what might sound like a strange idea. A symphony made up of an entire city. He will call this symphony the Symphony of Silence. Let's be clear, this isn't his first time. But it will be his most important attempt so far. Soviet bigwigs, so to speak. So this is what I know about Abramov. This is all I know, and I know what I know from a different man, the man I'm going to see now. His name is Andrei Smirnov. He is a man who studies these things, writes about these things. He is a man who can answer what have clearly now become our common questions. Or so I thought. Even Smirnov said it was impossible to classify Abramov. He told me Abramov was from a Cossack family and had worked for the circus. He was a fountain of ideas, a ladies' man, and if he couldn't be pinned down in his personal life, it was even more so with his work.
In one sense, they call him a composer. Yes, he was a composer. He studied music for a few years. But I, like most people interested in Abramov, know very little about him, because almost none of his life. So you could say there was this link between his characters. His ideas about the future of music, music that was never written down, and the music he made to survive, the music he made to make money. So to talk about what kind of music he wrote or would have written if that music would have survived, well, we just don't know. So yes, he's a composer, but he's a composer based on myth.
The myth in part was based on the flair for the dramatic. The revolution was no problem. He had friends too. Poets, engineers, musicians, cinematographers. In the first decades of the 20th century, they dreamed up ideas about the future. With the arrival of the revolution, Abramov and the others set out to turn them into reality, new art for a new world, with support, Smirnov told me, from the Soviet elite.
He had very strong support from on high. He had support from Trotsky. And as far as I know, he didn't support him, or at least he tolerated it all.
And myself.
But you didn't have any actual martial arts skills.
No, I did not at all.
But Barb had plenty of other skills.
She and her colleagues were the first to map airflow in a reefer, and the first to figure out how much produce could be stuffed in before air circulation started to suffer.
With frozen, all you really need to do is keep it cold. With produce, what you need to do, or with most of the produce, it's breathing and respiring product. And so what you need to do in order to preserve its shelf life is to slow down the breathing and respiration that's going on.
Based on their findings, the standard ventilation system of a standard reefer unit was completely redesigned. Air used to enter the container from the top. In the improved design, cooler air entered the container from the bottom.
And then the air basically got forced up through the cargo, which then allowed it to remove the heat, which is what the whole focus of the airplane is.
Their research also influenced the ways that growers would dry, prepare, and pack their products to be shipped, all to ensure that fruits and veggies could last 2 weeks on the ocean inside of a refrigerated tin can.
In short, the work that Barbara Pratt and her rotating rotating cast of colleagues did during their 7 years at sea led to a world where Peruvian asparagus can reliably be found in American grocery stores, and New Zealand kiwi fruit are readily available on British supermarket shelves.
So, you still work in shipping. You've stayed in shipping ever since you got sucked in. What happens nowadays if you want to figure out what's going on inside of a reefer? You don't have to be on the boat, right?
Not necessarily. Today the reefer units are all on the microprocessors, so we can see the digital recordings of those units internally once they get to their destination.
And these high-tech reefers are so reliable and so finely calibrated that they are now taking business away from air cargo, even for extremely fragile products such as fish and flowers.
And they're basically affordable today, whereas in the past they were not, is because they move via ocean. If they all had to move via air, they would be very expensive for all of us. But we can bring in Italian grapes, we can bring in persimmons, we can bring in other products into this country that are not typically run.
Even bananas are shipped in containers now. Chiquita, which is a descendant of United Fruit, recently sold off the last of its banana-only ships. And now Maersk is beginning to experiment with controlled ripening en route, inside the reefer, rather than in special facilities at distribution centers. All hail the reefer, the liberal bananas.
The global shipping industry, like it or not, is an undeniable part of modern existence. And of course, it's rife with its own problems. Yes, products are not as fresh after they've been at sea for 2 weeks. And all this refrigeration is really environmentally inefficient. And it's forcing small farmers to compete in the cutthroat global economy. Reefers seem to embody everything the local food is finding. And you'd think that it would be Barb versus the local farmers.
I grew up and actually am still farming the same family farm, and we grow a variety of different products, mostly fruits and vegetables.
Barbara is no stranger to the realities of running a small farm today. But she likes that small farmers can have an opportunity to access a global market. Barb is well aware of the value of eating local, but she defends the importance of just eating more fruits and vegetables.
Yes, it's important to eat local, but in January and February, there are no local fruits and vegetables that we can eat. What has happened over the years is that people are eating more fruits and vegetables in general because they have access to more products and higher quality products year-round.
It's thanks in part to Barb's research that we can eat blueberries, tomatoes, because of the reefer.
What's the matter with that cat there? Full of reefer? Yeah, man. We done catch a high. They savage, I think.
telling people about the show. That's the only marketing we've ever had, and supporting us so that we can remain independent and growing from our dedication to this program. We are a project of 977 San Francisco and produced out of the offices of Arcsine, an architecture and interiors firm in beautiful downtown Oakland, California. You only have a couple more days to apply for our reporter producer position in Oakland. It really is the best job in all of audio journalism, and the Bay Area is just the greatest. Check out the jobs page on our website for details. It's 99% 99percentinvisible.org/jobs.
If he says Wall Street is panic, because he won't sell the Atlantic, then he will not into that dream thing.
Support for 99% Invisible comes from Slack. Slack is the best messaging app for teams. At 99PI, our communication is streamlined so it's no longer comprised of random emails and IMs and texts. With Slack, we set up channels that correspond to the episodes we're working on, but also to projects we're working on, and all the discussion happens in those channels. So we've been talking about a website overhaul for a while, and for months, Katie and Sam and April and I have been putting in suggestions into our Slack channel and links to other websites that we like. They're all in the Slack channel, and when Kurt joined us, he went through the channel and saw all the discussions that we've been having. So critical info isn't buried in some random email somewhere. Good ideas are not hidden away. It just works incredibly well for this. Slack is free to use for as long as you want with as many users as you want, but they also have paid plans with additional features and more powerful functionality. Anyone who visits slack.com/99 will get $100 in credits that they can use whenever they decide to upgrade to a paid plan. Again, Slack is free to use forever if you want to try it out. Seriously, it makes work. Go to slack.com/99. Support is also provided by NatureBox. NatureBox makes your snacking dreams a reality. NatureBox Day is a big deal at 99PI HQ. Sam's new favorite are the guacamole donuts. We are still completely dedicated to pineapple donuts. Even if we get bored of those, we'll never get bored of NatureBox because they release brand new choices every single month. And right now you can enjoy your first box of NatureBox snacks on them, but only at naturebox.com/99PI and only if you act fast. So head to naturebox.com/99PI right now to unbox a world of taste and possibility. Go to naturebox.com/99PI. And pretty much since the beginning, we've been supported by Tiny Letter, email for people with something to say. My boy Maslow always has something to say. What do you gotta say, Maslow?
It's 95 degrees today. I'd rather be inside a reefer.
tinyletter.com. It's free, easy, minimal, and powerful. The simplest way to send an email newsletter. From the great people behind MailChimp. Thanks to MailChimp, the Knight Foundation, and people just like you, we not only produce this show, but we've brought together a whole bunch of independent programs under the label Radiotopia from PRX. To find out about all the shows in Radiotopia, visit radiotopia.fm. You can find this show and like the show on Facebook. We're all on Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram, and Spotify. You can download every episode of 99% Invisible at 99pi.org.
Welcome to 3-Minute Russian Season 1, Lesson 10, Asking How Much. In this lesson, you'll learn how to ask how much something costs in Russian. Here's the way to ask, how much does this cost in Russian?
Сколько это стоит?
First is a word meaning how much.
Сколько?
Next is the word meaning this.
Это.
Last is the word meaning costs.
Стоит.
Note the rising intonation. Listen again to the question meaning, how much does this cost?
Сколько это стоит?
Here's the way to ask, how much does that cost in Russian?
Сколько то стоит?
First is a word meaning how much.
Сколько?
Next is the word meaning this.
То.
Last is the word meaning costs.
Стоит.
Note the rising intonation. Listen again to the question meaning, how much does that cost?
Сколько то стоит? Сколько то стоит?
Here's a response meaning, okay, I'll take it.
Хорошо, я возьму это.
First is a word meaning, okay.
Хорошо. Хорошо.
Next is the word meaning, I.
Я. Я.
Next is the word meaning, will take.
Возьму. Возьму.
Last is the word meaning, this.
Это. Это.
Listen again to the response, okay, I'll take it.
Хорошо. Я возьму это. Хорошо. Я возьму это.
Here's a response meaning, no thanks, it's too expensive.
Нет, спасибо. Это слишком дорого.
First is a word meaning, no.
Нет. Нет.
Next is the expression meaning, thank you.
Спасибо. Спасибо.
Next is the word meaning, this.
Это. Это.
Next is the word meaning, to.
Слишком. Слишком.
Last is the word meaning, expensive.
Дорого. Дорого.
Listen again to the response meaning, no thanks, it's too expensive.
Нет, спасибо. Это слишком дорого. Нет, спасибо. Это слишком дорого.
Now it's time for a quick cultural insight.
A fast way to ask about the price of something is сколько стоит, meaning how much. Feel free to use this phrase in any kind of situation and setting.
And that's all for this lesson. Don't forget to check out the lesson notes, and we'll see you in the next lesson.
In this week's assignment on the BBC World Service, Paraguay's schoolgirl mothers. I'm Linda Presley, reporting from Asuncion on a story some listeners might find upsetting. This is the Casa Rosa Maria. Quite a grand entrance.
But like I think I said earlier, there's also this feeling I think now from people who are inundated with so many photographs, and that there's just this different access to photography, in that you see so many ads every day, you go to so many websites that any photograph that you see is going to still have edits, and that people are probably going to feel awkward if they don't see the edits that they might expect from an image just right out of the camera. The changing the contrast, fixing the exposure, correcting the color.
Well, heck, we've gotten to a point now where a lot of the cameras inside phones, they have some software that automatically do some enhancements to contrast or lighting, or to make sure that things like red eye aren't a problem, that kind of stuff.
Or in the past few years, putting the hashtag no filter on your Instagram photo and you haven't put that kind of interesting.
Yeah, I never really use filters. Occasionally, like Google Photo will, once in a blue moon, and I don't know what the algorithm chooses as the criteria for this, but will single out an image and do an auto enhancement and show you what it looks like. And it doesn't automatically share it. You actually have the option to say, it's like the old science fiction super enhancement. might take a picture of a table that has a really interesting wood grain to it, and you throw it through this Google Deep Dream, and it just finds dog faces everywhere, and it starts filling in the information so that now it's just an H.P. Lovecraftian horror show on the table covered in dog faces. Or like there are a lot of pictures of, like, again, taking pictures of dogs, where you look at the picture of the dog and it's looking at patterns in the fur, and suddenly you see like all these other faces of dogs emerging from these patterns of fur.
Wow.
And it definitely starts to feel like you are in a trippy nightmare scenario.
Yeah, like a nightmare, but you can close the browser window.
Yeah, so I'm sure that Salvador Dali would have said, this is amazing, and it should be included on all cameras, and you should never be able to turn it off.
Would have been a spokesman.
Yeah, because it is that kind of trippy sort of experience. And it's all based, again, on pattern recognition, only in this case, it's recognizing patterns that are not really representative of the thing it interprets them as. It's very much the same thing as looking up at the clouds and seeing a face. Now, we humans do this all the time. We see patterns where there really isn't a pattern. Like, we recognize what appears to be a pattern in something that's largely a chaotic system. Same sort of thing. It's actually pretty fascinating. It's a kind of artificial intelligence in a way. You might call it artificial dumbness because it's misinterpreting, but yeah, so this has been a lot of fun, Dylan. I gotta thank you. Now, I promise, listeners, I'm gonna have Dylan on again. We're gonna do an episode in the future. It's gonna be kind of an introduction to the basics of photo editing, Photoshop, that kind of stuff, so that you understand what the tools are. We talked a little bit about it when you went into what the different levels in an image can be. We're going to go into more detail in a future episode, and I know that my number one question, because I've already told Dylan this is what it's going to be, and I've made sure he doesn't tell me the answer. What the heck is that magic wand for?
I'll tell you a better way to do it.
Excellent. So I look forward to asking that for you to tell me, and then to tell me why I shouldn't use it. That's going to be in a future episode. Guys, if you enjoyed this episode, I'll do my best to make sure I get Dylan back in today to do some more shows. And if you have requests for other topics, maybe there's something else you've always wanted to know about, we can even talk at some point about how this kind of manipulation has extended over into video form. Going back to Star Wars, when the teaser trailer for Episode 7 came out, and the lightsaber that had the two, like the cross guard of lightsaber came out, and then someone it went all the way up the blade, and just lasers coming out of every surface of that lightsaber. That's the sort of thing that is an extension of what we're talking about here. So maybe we'll do an episode about that at some point in the future. But you gotta let me know. Send me an email. The address is techstuff@howstuffworks.com, or drop me a line on Facebook, Twitter, or Tumblr. I use techstuffhsw as the handle in all three. And I'll talk to you again really soon.
For more on this and thousands of other topics, visit howstuffworks.com.
temporarily hot as water sound. Only an escalator temporarily
impossible for products to be designed just once and then mass-produced. It has been a slight imperfections in the individual wear and tear introduced by human use that transforms a quality mass-produced product into the form grandmother's iron skillet. The initial design determined its quality. Once there, to perfection that became yours. If you think a slightly broken escalator can't be lovable, well, maybe you haven't been paying attention.
An escalator on a DC Metro platform is like a fine wine. It's better with age and without any industrial lubricant.
Sam lives in Baltimore now. He lived in DC for a few years. He said that this sound came to embody the excitement he felt from living in a city.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in one of Florida's most depressing suburbs. It's just miles and miles of highways and cul-de-sac.
Very nice.
Thank you. So when I moved to DC, I took public transit everywhere just because I could. The DC Metro system, it's not the best in the world, but it's pretty good. Although a lot of people do lament the poor condition of the Metro's escalators. Some are just flat out broken, and then there are some that work but make these crazy noises, which, annoy a lot of people. But for me, I found that a skronking escalator was like this little trumpeter announcing how awesome it was to live in the city.
It turns out that someone else loves this sound too.
So this is Chris Richards.
I'm the pop music critic at the Washington Post.
Chris was also in a band called Q and Not Q. He wrote a kind of appreciation of the Metro escalators for the Post.
We're at the Farragut North Metro Station in Washington, D.C., on the north side of L Street, Connecticut Avenue.
Chris told me that he had never really noticed the sound that the escalators made until one day when he was on a bit of a free jazz kick.
Having my ear trained for those sort of breath on brass kind of sounds. I think maybe turning the corner to come down the escalators one day, I thought, oh, there's a saxophone player playing at the bottom of the Metro. But it wasn't that at all. It's just the escalators kind of like wonking and screeching away. Maybe I don't know if they were always this loud.
On the escalator, there's a plastic element on the side of each step that keeps it from rubbing against the metal siding. A lubricant keeps it all running smoothly, but when it rains or snows, the lubrication wears off.
So what you're hearing when you hear these kind of like moaning squawks is steel stairs sort of rubbing up and chafing against that plastic element that's gotten a little too dry. Kind of like a beautiful serendipitous aftershock of the wear and tear these escalators are facing. It sounds like music.
And like any good music critic, Chris started classifying the different styles of Metro escalator. So here at Farragut North, the escalators might sound like
whales mating or something like that.
Whereas the escalator at U Street
kind of sounded like Indian drone music.
And at Columbia Heights,
an aviary of chrome-throated ravens taunting you as you descend into your workday.
We understand that we could be over-romanticizing a squonking and squeaking escalator.
You can talk all day about appreciating the ambient soundscape around you and get really into aestheticized ways of listening. Chris Richards was big on this, by the way. But you could also just as easily say, hey, this is all noise.
I think it's all really in the ear of the beholder, so.
Yeah, it is totally understandable that people wouldn't appreciate a screeching escalator. Chris actually told me that when he called up Metro for his story, their PR people didn't believe him. They thought he was writing some big expose about escalator failure.
Quite the opposite, really. I was trying to say, even though these things are a little bit beat down, this is a wonderful little residual bonus, I guess.
My point of view is if you're going to be subjected to some kind of sensory experience of which you have no control every single day, it's to your benefit. It's, why not try to enjoy something? Because there's enough things in life to be stressed out about.
As much as people complain about all the sounds that cities make and all the noises that cities make, I think those noises define it and really become our environment. Sound can be an irritation or it can be information.
Chris got me hoping the escalators never get fixed, except the ones that just straight up don't work. The escalator at the Wheaton stop, it is the longest escalator in the Western Hemisphere. It takes 3 minutes to ride to the top when it's working.
Let's hope that the Wheaton escalator doesn't conveniently become stairs anytime soon. 99% of this was produced this week by our intern Sam Greenspan and me, Roman Mars. It was adapted from an episode of Sam's podcast, Whisper Cities, a show about overlooked places and the people who find them. Find out more at whispercities.org. This program is made possible with support from Making a Difference with Creativity. It's a project of KALW 91.7 local public radio in San Francisco, the American Institute of Architects in San Francisco, and the Center for Architecture and Design. 99% Invisible is distributed by PRX, the Public Radio Exchange for Public Radio World Public. Find out more at prx.org. To find out more or keep in touch with us, especially if you want to tell us about your favorite sound which you know for a fact is somebody else's noise, go to our website. It's 99percentinvisible.org. Support for 99% Invisible comes from FreshBooks. FreshBooks is the easy-to-use invoicing software designed to help small business owners like me get organized, save time invoicing, and get paid faster. It's incredibly user-friendly, you save time billing, and it's specifically designed to help small service-based businesses grow. What about just one cool feature? You can send an invoice and it will know the second the recipient opens it. Look at this. FreshBooks.com/99PI and enter 99PI in the How Did You Hear About Us section with Simon House and This is 99%. This is it. As I record, I started getting the final comments because there are 4 days left. If you're new to the concept of Kickstarter, it's this online website for funding creative projects like this show. It's more about how the people who have pledged the responses that warm your heart. It's also warmed my fans because, like a superstitious baseball pitcher in the playoffs, I'm throwing this Kickstarter group. We need fewer than 400 people to get over 5,000 backers total for this campaign, and if we do that, 5,000 people, the Design Matters Institute will reward the show a bonus grant of $10,000. You can pledge enough to get one of the amazing prizes, or you can give $5. Whatever, you set the price to whatever you think this show is worth to you. I just want you to be a backer of this project because this is about people doing exactly what they can and no more. All that matters is that you lend your voice and we collectively ensure the future of this show and maybe even change public radio itself for the better, for good. Alright, that's it. I've learned there's a bunch of people, they started calling themselves the Invisibles. And they're
Okay, I'm close to the border with Belarus. Now I have to avoid them to see all this structure of the video recording on the bike because they may get suspicious. That's why I have to put camera somewhere else. My knee starts to be painful. I will see what will happen.
This is 99% Invisible. I'm Roman Mars. Cars, house paint, concert. Look around you. Pretty much everything is delivered in a shipping container. There are 20 million shipping containers now in the world, carried by 6,000 container vessels, all moving literal tons of stuff back and forth over the ocean. And it all started in 1956 when a trucker by the name of Malcolm McLean had an amazingly good idea. What if there was a container that could come off a ship full of goods and attach to a truck or a train? No one need to move the goods from one container to the next. Goodbye to all the time and labor spent loading and unloading. McLean believed the shipping container could revolutionize the way goods moved around the world.
Malcolm McLean became a very, very wealthy man. By 1982, he was actually one of the 400 richest Americans. Because, of course, the shipping container did revolutionize the way goods move.
That's reporter Nicola Twilley.
New, deeper ports were built for new, deeper ships carrying more products. A cargo vessel in the late 1960s needed a crew of 50. A container ship 5 times the size needed just 18 people. Meanwhile, on shore, roughly 3/4 of the hundreds of thousands of dock workers who were needed to move goods on and off ships ended up losing their jobs. It only took one guy to operate the crane that lifted these big boxes.
McLean's idea had created an incredibly more efficient global shipping industry. But there was still one major problem.
Actually, there were a lot of problems. Bananas, grapes, cheese.
The shipping container worked well for dry cargo, like paper and cans and plastics. But perishable products were transported the same way for decades, as bulk cargo in the hold of specially designed refrigerated ships.
And in these refrigerated boats, one giant cargo space could only be kept at one temperature. And the thing is that different products need different temperatures. Bananas need to be at a higher temperature than apples, and apples need to be kept warmer than, say, frozen meat. So most ships were limited to carrying one thing at a time.
United Foods' fleet of banana boats was perhaps the most famous example of these one-item ships.
The result of sending massive amounts of produce in one ship like this was that when a ship arrived in port, it flooded the area with thousands of pounds of a single commodity. So it was like bananas for days and days and days, and then the next week, bushels and bushels of apples everywhere. The market was flooded, food was wasted.
Plus, while these refrigerated ships were delivering all the produce, the shipping container industry was missing out on the big business.
However, by the 1970s, the container industry had started to build refrigerated containers, which, it is my great pleasure to tell you, are referred to within the industry as reefers.
Dude.
I know! And with an entirely straight face. But the reefers they had designed weren't working very well. Food would show up at the destination rotten or moldy, and no one understood why. The container industry had a reefer problem, and they needed help.
My name is Barbara Pratt.
Reefers master.
I'm the Director of Reefer Services for Maersk Line today.
That's Barbara Pratt, and Maersk is the biggest shipping company in the world. But back in the 1970s, Barbara was just a college kid.
And so this professor at Cornell knocked on my door and said, "Hey Barbara, would you like to do some research?"
Barbara was about to graduate from Cornell with a degree in physics. She'd been planning to go to grad school, but she agreed to defer for a year or two to work alongside her professor and a team of researchers on a project for General Foods. Their mission was to understand what was going wrong with all these shipments.
Basically, the whole industry was blind to what was happening in transit. They would place 30 to 40,000 pounds worth of produce into a container, put it on a ship, and then see whatever happened at destination.
It was like, now will the peaches be rotten or underripe?
If only 50% of the produce ended up in good shape, that's what would be consumed, and the rest would be thrown in the trash.
Barbara and her team decided the only way to see what was happening to the produce inside the containers was to follow the containers from farm to truck to train to ship.
They'd need a lab, but it would have to be a mobile lab, one that can move with the shipments.
And so, of course, Barbara's research team would build their lab in a shipping container. It's really the only thing that made
Teach the peasants and workers about the future of art.
Along the way, Abramov would develop far-reaching theories that would sketch out the concepts of electronic music, biomechanics, early use of sound in cinema. And then there was the Symphony of Sirens. Avramov's music of the future. The recent to come. Archival footage of parades from Red Square that day in November 1923 showed clear skies, cold fall day. It was the first time apparently the Kremlin had been filmed from an airplane. Going through the tape, I couldn't find any evidence of Avramov. But the irony, as Smirnov told me, was that the pilot may have been the only one who could make sense of Avramov's performance below.
На самом деле в Москве это исполнение симфонии, мне кажется, осталось для многих даже не замечено.
The performance of the symphony went largely unnoticed because demonstrations were going on at the same time in Red Square. Airplanes were flying over. Most people probably didn't realize the sirens were there all the time. Moscow is a big city, but even for the people who were there, the sound was so loud it threw them off their feet. So the performer couldn't understand those who were there to listen couldn't hear a thing. Nobody had even the slightest understanding of what was going on.
I learned one other detail that day. Although no recordings
or to the public. They tend to regard themselves benefiting on all this, and any amateur commentator, as they regard him, is an interim. Now, this is breaking down, I agree, but there's still quite an element of it left. Perhaps the law disappear in this next election. 19 Dáil may be talking to you.
We all agree, of course, that what goes on in Parliament, what goes on in the Dáil, is really the tip of an iceberg as far as political life is concerned. Does the political correspondent concern himself a great deal with non-parliamentary political activity?
Well, I certainly do. I suppose one must be honest enough to say that this is, in a small country like this, where we all know each other, it's much simpler to lobby, as they call it, than it is in Britain. We have a House of Commons of 600 members, and we come from a very big population. Here in this country, if I hear that he should say something, I know that he should personally. I have a rough idea of the kind of man he is, and I make an assessment of perhaps what he's not saying. That's not difficult only after a few years. To that extent, lobbying in this small country or trying to write from behind the scenes is simple.
Yes, and I wasn't just thinking behind the scenes in that tone of voice, really, so much as the activity of government departments, the activity out in the field, the work of politicians outside of Parliament, you know.
Yes, well, yes, this, but again, one of the big troubles here is that they haven't developed this. They haven't developed the committee system sufficiently. There's very body of they should have onto the committee system in sensible elections. Well, I would say now, let's take the budget, which is the Minister for Finance invites political correspondents to meet his budget officials, and completely off the record, we go through the documents, through the statistics, and we end up with a background picture. It's very useful. It means that you can either criticise the budget or praise it, but you can do it intelligently.
What do you think of the criticism that has been suggested that political correspondents, in fact, that the more they establish themselves, the less trustworthy they become, not in their honesty, but because once they become established, the politicians give them what they want them to tell the people?
Well, this hasn't been my experience. I would say it perhaps works. It works at a rather superficial level in that way. But once you become involved in rather heavy criticism of a political party or individual politicians, they very soon become disillusioned with you, and you are a natural. Really, the thing to keep in mind is that the correct relationship between political journalists and politicians is one of enmity. Now, you try to say, well, I'll keep that at the professional level and personally we'll be all friendly, but there is that needle there that you never quite get away from.
Not in a newspaper office, but in an establishment much frequented by newsmen, I ran into a man with wide and deep experience of newspapers in many countries, Lord Coburn. I asked him, what do you think is the specific journalism here?
So, Oksana, one interesting point about the prevalence of the Russian language is that so many people, especially from the older generations all over the world, can speak it. People from post-Soviet countries, even Middle Europeans and Chinese.
Well, it might not sound very encouraging for people who travel to Russia to experience its modern life and meet girls, for example. But look at the bright side. If you get lost, let's say, in Beijing, and ask an old taxi driver for the directions in Russian, there is 80% chance you'll get the answer.
Wow, that's really interesting, Oksana. Something else interesting is to find out all the different reasons people are learning Russian.
What are some of the reasons you've heard, Eric?
Well, Oksana, there are a lot of good reasons. Russia no longer keeps the image of a scary country. Possibly one extreme vision of Russia, that it's a scary country with bears wandering the streets, mafia shooting from every corner. This is no longer the image for most people. Nowadays, more and more people are wanting to go to Russia. And of course, it helps quite a lot if you can speak some basic Russian.
That's so true, because often taxi drivers, restaurant staff, and the police, they don't speak a word of English.
In addition, it's useful to learn Russian for business purposes. I've met a lot of people whose interest in Russian started from business.
Yes, in a business situation, it's always safer to rely on your own understanding than on the translations of a third party. Besides, any Russian interpreter will, of course, guard the interests of the Russian side in doing business.
Complicated stuff, but it's good to start somewhere, and that's what we're here for in the basic boot camp, to get you started. Now let's look at some of the vocabulary we use from this lesson. Our first word is
Русская.
Russian.
Русская. Русская.
Next.
Американец.
American. Nationality. Masculine.
Американец. Американец.
Now let's take a closer look at how the words or phrases are used. Okay, Oksana, we've already learned the greeting
Здравствуйте.
from our first boot camp lesson, and also
Меня зовут.
which means hello and my name is, respectively. And so now we'll move on to nationality. So Oksana, are you really Russian?
Well, now that you asked, I'm not really Russian, I'm Ukrainian. But most of the Ukrainians speak Russian.
Okay, so you were just using that as an example of someone, if you were to meet them in Russia.
Exactly.
They would say, "Ya Ruskaya,"
Yes.
if you're talking to a woman. How would you say, "I'm Ukrainian"?
For a woman, it would sound like Я Украинка.
So, Oksana, just to be clear, do most people in Ukraine speak Russian?
Yes, most people do speak Russian, especially in middle Ukraine and eastern Ukraine, which is closer to Russia. Yes.
So, Oksana, if you go to the capital of Ukraine, which is Kiev,
Right?
you'll be able to use these Russian phrases, right?
Of course. Even people whose native language is Ukrainian can speak perfect Russian with no accent.
Okay, great. I noticed you said "Ya Ruskaya," right?
Yes, I did.
And that's all you need is just "ya," which means I, and your nationality.
Yes, that's all you need.
Okay, so one more time, how would you say that you're Ukrainian?
Я Украинка.
Okay, and if you check the PDF, you'll find many different nationalities, how to say them both in masculine and feminine genders. Oksana, can we have a few examples?
Sure.
For example, how would you say, "I'm Chinese"?
Я китаянка.
Okay. How about "I'm Canadian"?
Я канадка.
And how would you say "I'm Canadian" as a male?
Canadian male. Okay. Я канадец.
Part of the world is not anymore just a small, isolated thing.
You feel that there is this relation between events, and the coordination of this relationship is, of course, I agree, one of the necessary things. I think where a newspaper really falls down is when you have two stories in two different parts of the paper, which obviously are linked, and the link hasn't been seen.
Oh yes. Well, this of course happens because we are working against the clock. We're producing a 20-page paper. In fact, this is a small factory. You're delivering goods down to the caterer to have it set, and this you're operating in this way. People forget that this has to come out twice a day. You come out with your special edition, your country and your city edition. So therefore, it's very much at times a production effort to get the thing to beat the clock. And sub-editors who are sitting there watching stories coming in from various parts of the world, trying to see the relationship between them. The chief sub is looking at it. It's very much an emergency. It surprises me, in fact, that newspapers aren't so articulate and so coherent in their approach to world problem. You know?
Yes, another journalist said to me the other day that when people
editors, their mature sub-editors, have a real appreciation of one another's efforts.
Now, your job, the job of you and your staff, is to get what people bring in, whether they bring it in physically or whether it comes in on the wire services and so forth, to add it all up and make a paper, make a page out of it, make several pages. Yeah?
Yes, the sub-editor's desk is where the paper itself is brought to earth. And it's subject to all kinds of limitations, which the people who are writing the material do. The size of the paper, for example.
Brother, my best brother, father and friend. I am in Belarus with a bike. This is a village. I am going to the capital, to Minsk. I'm biking a bit. I have to bike for 2 days. Wait. I send you many hugs to everybody, to Yosevas, to Zakur, to your wife and all the rest. Thank you really much for your warmth when I was there, and see you soon. Ciao.
San Francisco and the Center for Architecture and Design. More, including cool pictures of big columns at
I don't have maps with me. I don't use maps paper. Cleaning up some memory on the smartphone, and it happened that the Google Map it's cleared up. It means that on Google Map I don't have anything to say. Even though here in Belarus the motorway it's not really full of cars, and with a bike you could be able to drive on it. It's just annoying that I know that I'm going direction Minsk. I'm going plus or minus southeast, even if my compass is not really precise. But I don't know if the street I am on it's continuing or not. I don't know if this street will just stop and at the house of someone because it's a small street and there are no cars passing.
Roll the blue, but allow all the other wavelengths. True is to 8, well, you can't let it 100, it won't be 100% because there's some limitations. But certainly you can get it up close to 90%. And that's what you need if you under household lighting. So that you can see well, even though the intensity is reduced.
This has been, for me, a really amazing conversation. I have to say, I've been really curious about a lot of this, and there is, you mentioned before, there's a lot out on the web right now. There's a lot of companies coming to the forefront trying to vie for some dominance in this marketplace, and it's been a little overwhelming and confusing to me, so you've clarified a lot for me about how this works. I'm really excited about that. I want to just ask you kind of what your concluding thoughts about this, and how do you want people to walk away from this conversation? What do you want them to know as they sort of take this information?
Well, we as human beings developed, evolved with almost 12 hours of melatonin production. And because of our artificial lighting now in the U.S. and other developed countries, we have much fewer hours of darkness. And because of that, we have much fewer hours of total melatonin production. Melatonin is a very enhancing hormone with all kinds of other health effects. If you want to find out what's going on in the medical research, in the U.S., go to PubMed.gov, PUBGOV. Or the glasses, but the filter will take care of it if there's no other light around, or even working on a computer. But the thing is that you don't want to, say, have a filter on your TV and yet have regular lights in the room.
Right.
Yeah, so you don't want to have any exposure to ordinary artificial lights at all. So you block it with the glasses, or you turn them off, and you we have night lights that you can use in the bathroom. They don't put out any blue, and so they don't suppress melatonin, and you're able to go right back to sleep afterwards if it's melatonin, lack of melatonin that keeps you awake. And if you're working on some difficult problem, it might keep you.
I love that idea of night lights.
When we travel, we take the night lights with us and we put them in the bathroom. They equipped all of their ushers with our flashlight, because it's a very unique little device. It's got amber-colored LEDs, 6 of them, and the rest of the main portion is just a 9-volt battery. So the battery wears out, you take the thing apart and you put a new battery on, and you just have this. That's all your flashlight is. There's this 9-volt battery plus this 6-7-volt little clock. Let's see. Well, let's see. We have the filters of. We have a booklet. We have a book light. A light that can be clipped on your books. We have compact fluorescent lamps that are coated so that they don't put out blue.
Okay, so I have a question. Let's say that,
having a canine unit.
Yeah. And initially it was like, oh, I need a police dog. You have a German Shepherd, and leave it to me in your will. That was like a police dog arrangement for a while.
Yeah.
Finally, law enforcement agencies around the country, apparently 2001 set off a huge boom in demand for police dogs. That's one of the big reasons why they're so ubiquitous today. Although they've been in use a lot longer than that.
Yeah.
But in any small town now, you're going to find like at least one canine unit post 9/11.
Right, bomb sniffers.
Right. So, but at some point they figured out the ones that they're doing in Europe, let's just import them from there because they know what they're doing in Belgium, in Holland, and other areas where they have these long-standing police training programs where you can buy a certified dog, and then you actually teach the trainer how to deal with that dog rather than the trainer training the dog.
Hello, Володин. Володин?
Володин?
Да. Да? Окей. Минск?
Да.
Окей.
Минск налево, Володин.
Окей. Спасибо. Чао.
Пожалуйста.
Пока.
Счастливого пути.
Чао.
Shipment of marijuana in heat-sealed Mylar bags inside plastic-lined crates sealed with foam sealant inside a closed storage garage. Yeah. So that's a little bit. That'll tell you a little bit about the sensitivity of a dog's nose. It's pretty amazing. They don't get confused. You can bury your drugs in coffee or wrap them in perfume, and the dog will still go, no, I know what's in there. Nice try. Now let me bite your crotch.
And the reason their noses are so sensitive is they have something like 200 million olfactory receptors.
Crazy.
Where we have something like 5 million.
Yeah, we're dummies in the smell department.
Right. So dogs are also used not just for sniffing stuff out, whether it be drugs or bombs or whatever. They're also used as patrol dogs.
Yeah.
Which basically means that they're attack dogs at the ready.
Yeah.
And apparently just the very presence of a dog can keep a physical confrontation from taking place or escalating.
Oh yeah, I've seen it on cops. When they get that dog out, you most often see the dude go, okay, where do you want it? Because they've got that dog barking, and they don't, I don't know, it's weird that being beaten down by a human isn't enough. But that dog is scary.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, you can't really reason with the dog. You can't be like, enough. What am I saying?
I don't know if you can reason with a cop that's beating you down either. But
so with the dog, actually, they fall into this spectrum of escalation of violence that's allowable among law enforcement.
Yeah.
They actually come after the baton, but before.
of color hits you, you notice really what a great modernist structure it has and how the structure is expressed on the outside, which is also not something you see every day anymore. And I think it's a wonderful building.
That was Jackie Koo, founding principal of the architectural firm Koo & Associates. We'll get back to her in a minute. But first, the story of why and how the building got to be so purple. My dad, John Maxey.
It was commissioned by the Pritzkers, a very rich family in Chicago, and it was the first Hyatt hotel in the Midwest. It was called Hyatt House. It had nothing to do with the purple. By the way, the purple came because one of the Pritzkers, A.N., the big man among the Pritzkers in the family, asked me what color glaze style I want to use. And I wanted to use gray. And he said, that's dull. I like something brighter. So I made a mistake of showing him the samples of books, having on it some 35, 40 color samples. And sure enough, I picked the purple. And you don't argue with A.N. Pritzker.
My father tells me this story, but I suspect differently. He's always gravitated toward bold color choices. Our current argument is over bright orange balconies on a building that we always pass. He loves them, and I hate them. When I was growing up, his favorite color was blue, a color that to me is suspiciously close to purple. In fact, every house we ever lived in, brick bungalow, summer house in the woods, suburban barn-shaped house with mustard-colored siding, all had bright blue front doors that my father painted. My elementary school bus driver used to call me Blue Door. Upon interrogation, my father coughed up his strange Hungarian logic.
In the Near East, where ultimately I come from, the blue color on the doors, blue and green, is to keep the evil spirit away. So that's the reason I always painted the entrance door of our houses blue, to keep the evil spirit away. And it did.
Do you think it worked for the hotel? So you don't think the purple kept away the evil eye from the hotel?
Not really, because there was a murder in the hotel.
Actually, there were two, but I digress.
The beauty of that building is the exposed concrete frame, how the columns are pulled out of the structure, showing this. It's like a human being whose skeleton would be on the exterior, partially. That would be weird, right? Well, that's the way that building is. The columns are pulled out, the slab side slightly pulled out. It's a building which reveals its structure. And that is architecturally the interesting thing about it. Purple is totally irrelevant. It could be green, okay? It could be the same good or bad building.
So, as an architect, I have to ask you, this is a perfect example of what the difference between what the public sees and what the architect sees.
Oh, absolutely.
Because the public sees purple brick, the architect is sitting here saying the purple is so unimportant in the scheme of the building.
Exactly.
It means nothing. It's just such a tiny thing. But to the public, that's all it is.
That's right, because the public is ignorant. Very, truly ignorant.
Well, you can't really argue with them there. But in our defense, and I count myself as one of the public in this scenario, it's really, really purple.
And despite how far the Purple Hotel fell from its original glory, the dilapidation, the murder, the drug-fueled sex parties, and a demolition order, it was not torn down.
Time passed. The economy fell to pieces. Mid-century architecture slowly came back into vogue. Mad Men was on TV. The purple brick was kind of retro cool.
A light, however dim, was starting to shine on the building and its future.
Then, the Purple Hotel was nominated for landmark status, a place on the historic registry. There was talk of finding a buyer, talk of renovation. And then, while I was searching and interviewing for this very story, the Purple Hotel went up for auction.
There was a lot of pomp and circumstance in the beginning of the auctioneer yelling and saying, "Are you ready?" and in the booming voice, and then really there was only one bidder. So.
And that bidder was Jake Weiss of Weiss Properties in Skokie, which happens to be right next to Lincolnwood. He bought the Purple Hotel. And while Weiss is a shrewd businessman with a keen eye and good instincts, this particular purchase was also a labor of love.
When you have something that really is just not realizing its value and its potential, that is such a prime piece of property, it bothers you. It's part of your neighborhood, it's part of your community, and it's something that you really want to see be an asset to the community instead of a blight.
Here comes the love part.
Separately from that, when my, and more importantly, I think, we almost lived at the Purple Hotel for a period of time. When my grandfather had passed away and my father was saying the traditional Kaddish.
That's the Jewish prayer for the dead.
There was no synagogue anywhere in close proximity to where he lived at the time. And because we're Orthodox and we don't drive on the Sabbath, that was a little bit prohibitive to say the Kaddish. There's a very convenient shul right down the block.
Also known as a synagogue.
The congregation Yehuda Moshe. So on every single Shabbos for a year, we would move into the Purple Hotel to accommodate my father's responsibility to say the Kaddish for his father. So we lived there for about a year, every single weekend. And, me and my sister, the hotel was our playground.
And the architect Weiss has chosen to redesign the Purple Hotel and bring it back to its original luster is Jackie Koo of Jackie Koo and Associates. Also, a former student of my father, the original architect, John Maxey.
One of the things that we're looking into is more of a historic restoration of the building. And it would be wonderful, and especially since we have some of the old drawings, the original drawings from the 60s, 1961 when it was constructed. And there are a lot of pieces that are still left in the building, such as this wonderful monumental terrazzo stair with this wood wall behind it. I mean, you can really see it as this kind of late 50s, early 60s kind of Mad Men era, Pan Am sort of hotel that really could be very current in today's hospitality environment.
The culture today, especially in the hospitality market, for some reason purple is a predominant color. Not necessarily in the color of the brick, but in all their marketing. I mean, you'll look at the neon lights and the color of the key fob cards and the brochures that get printed. For some reason, purple is popping, and I'm not quite sure why.
Have any of your buildings had this kind of history, this kind of life cycle that you know of?
No, none of them. The same way that a person may go through life and you might go through different cycles yourself, and everybody goes through different rebellious times and ups and downs. I think the same holds true for a property like this that really was a character of itself. The building was really a product of the environment around it at any given time, and to a certain extent, the fact that the building did change.
didn't even have time to release an episode announcing the Kickstarter.
The street is not the
But
best.
now, I have a new goal. A personal goal.
That's
5,000. I want 5,000 Kickstarter backers. Pledge at any level. The minimum is $1. Just $1. At any level. There are amazing prizes at all different kinds of levels. You can go up to $10,000. There's like awesome t-shirts and posters and notebooks. It's all stuff that I had someone design because I wanted these items myself. But I'm not even talking about those levels necessarily. I'm just counting backers. People who pledge on Kickstarter for the show at any amount. This is my new, crazily ambitious personal goal of 5,000 backers. And unlike the original Kickstarter goal, this one will likely fail. But if you hit every goal easily, you're not setting them high enough. Fortune favors the bold, my friends. Always remember that. You can go to 99percentinvisible.org to find a link to donate, or go to Kickstarter and do a search on the show. So 5,000 backers. That came to me as a number because I want to send a message to the people who control the money in public media that if my little show, conceived of my little radio station of KLW in San Francisco, can be this successful and get massive, widespread support from people online, then they will all learn to take risks and fund people who make things that are personal and authentic. I'm not talking about thumbing my nose at the man. I want to inspire everyone else to be bold and know that if they take the leap and try something great, that's maybe a little different, like in a regular length radio show about architecture, well, that there are people out there who will help. At least 5,000 people. That will be something. Any amount. 5,000 people. I want to break Kickstarter. I want to crash the servers. I want one of those crazy Kickstarter success stories to be about a little public radio show instead of a high-tech gadget. Wouldn't that be cool? 99percentinvisible.org or just do a search on Kickstarter. Be one of the 5,000. Thanks. Here's the show. This is 99% Invisible. I'm Roman Mars. The hotel on the very prominent corner of Toohey and Kilburn Avenue in Lincolnwood, Illinois, used to be the town's most famous building, the first high-end hotel in all of Chicagoland, premier accommodations, top-notch restaurant.
It was swank. Roberta Flack stayed there.
Barry Manilow stayed there.
Harry Como.
Michael Jordan stayed there on his first night in Chicago.
And every 13-year-old boy in the area had his bar mitzvah there.
The hotel was built in 1960, and it looks it. So if you're wondering how much potentially anachronistic lounge music would be into this episode, oh, it's going to be. Then, slowly, over time, it became Lincolnwood's most infamous building. It changed hands, got seedy, and run down.
It was the home of the Midwest Fetish Fair and Marketplace Convention. There were drug-fueled sex parties attended by shady Chicago.
Made news around the world. It was the highest-earning journalism project in Kickstarter history. So we're gearing up for season 3, and it won't be long. It's going to be in September, so just a few weeks, couple weeks. But I've got a few thousand envelopes to stuff, and we got to get Sam unpacked and get everything sort of working in order now that we're together. And rather than doing repeats or just making you wait for the new season, I'm going to present stories from producers that I love, but who didn't actually produce these stories for 99% Invisible. But when you hear them, I'm pretty sure you're going to figure out why I thought.
Halo para Володин, yeah? This is okay? Хорошо, okay. Спасибо, ciao.
FreshBooks. FreshBooks is the easy-to-use invoicing software designed to help small business owners like me get organized, save time invoicing, and get paid faster. It's incredibly user-friendly, you save time billing, and it's specifically designed to help small service-based businesses grow. You want to know just one cool feature? You can send an invoice and you'll know the second the recipient opens it. It's pretty cool. None of this, I don't know if I got your invoice. Go to freshbooks.com/99pi and enter 99pi in the How Did You Hear About Us section when signing up so they know that we sent you. This is 99% Invisible. I'm Roman Mars. If you were standing in the crowd for any of the presidential inaugurations from Andrew Jackson through Dwight D. Eisenhower, you'd have seen the solemn oath of office taken between 24 tall, smooth columns at the east portico of the United States Capitol building. When the columns were installed in 1824, the sandstone slabs themselves that made up the columns, even before they were erected, were considered so important that they were transported from the Potomac River to Capitol Hill by human power alone. No lowly mules were deemed fit to move such sacred objects. But they didn't have quite the same standard in 1958.
They had been taken off the East Front when the East Front was extended. They were stored down along the Potomac, crated, slowly disintegrating.
After the renovation of the Capitol, the columns all got the boot. The notion was horrifying to Ethel Garrett, and she conscripted her friend Betty Ray.
I'm Elizabeth C. Ray, known as Betty Ray.
And sometime in the 1970s, they made it their mission to get the columns back on their feet.
I thought this would be very simple. I mean, who would say, couldn't do this?
It turns out plenty of people stood in the way.
Technically, they still belong to Congress.
And after 10 years of meetings,
They appear before various committees.
And more meetings.
And then they would have another meeting.
Fundraising.
I had to appear before the National Capital Planning Commission.
And hiring architects and surveyors.
I learned a tremendous amount about bureaucracy.
The columns were moved from storage.
From the area along the Potomac, they were put on trailers and strapped with, bands of steel things on mattresses, old mattresses, and they've been brought to the National Arboretum.
The Arboretum is a swath of greenery nestled among the warehouses and gas stations at the edge of Washington, D.C. It's where the old columns of the U.S. Capitol still are today.
When you're walking up to the columns located on a high area in the meadow of the Arboretum, they're majestic. They're huge columns. They, of course, are freestanding. They are really majestic. There's only one way of describing it. Majestic.
I could see them approaching from the field, and they actually look pretty majestic.
The consensus seems to be that they look pretty majestic.
It's pretty spectacular.
That's radio producer Jess Schreibstein checking out the columns at the National Arboretum.
So to my right, on the crest of this very small hill, are, I want to guesstimate, a couple dozen columns? 22.
With her is Chrissy Moore. She works at the Arboretum.
So they have Corinthian tops on these columns, and they're lined up in a few rows, very tall. I understand why people think that they're from Greece or from Rome, because it actually looks like some old Greek ruin sitting on top of a hill.
Definite, distinct grandeur about it that you won't see much outside of Washington, D.C.
Independent of their grand presentation, the columns hold a certain power, even if they don't hold a roof. But not all of the old East Portico had a champion like Betty Ray.
My directions say go downhill into the woods. Go down towards the bottom of the hill. There will be no trail. Don't worry. Keep walking.
Several miles away from the National Arboretum, where there's no visitor center, there are no commemorative plaques.
Then there'll be at the bottom of the hill, there'll be a trail that goes up into a ravine, and you go on that.
Still have to cycle almost 100 kilometers to get to Minsk. Maybe even more than 100, because I'm taking all the roads. I'm not even calculating how many kilometers I'm doing. But my knee is really, really painful. I have the just stop here to sleep. I was asking around some places where to sleep. I didn't ask directly, can I sleep at your place? Because I was going to a couple of doors of homes. But communication is a bit complicated. This thing fell down. The holder broke. But the phone is still working. It's still recording. Oh shit, mommy. Okay, I cannot hold it anymore the same way. Or hospitality. This time I just told them, look, I'm looking for a place to sleep. And after a few minutes they said, do you have money? I said, no, I don't have. They said, don't money between each other. And they just left. After various attempts to get hospitality from random people by knocking at the door, actually not knocking but just shouting, it looks like another cold night outside on a bus bench. But now that I did it a few times, anyway, nobody wanted me to sleep there. It was also hard for me to explain them, but everything, and in 4 kilometers you will get camping. The thing is, I don't even have the money for camping because I don't have pocket money yet. And better I don't get them, because if I get them I cannot spend them. Here's my policy. Here is a step. But it's not so well protected. It's another bus stop, but it's not too well protected. Maybe this is my home for tonight. Maybe this is my home for tonight. Exactly the same model. Пока. Привет.
Привет.
I travel bike.
Байк.
Go
Далеко.
to Minsk.
Минск.
Yeah, from Finland.
Вильна.
Finland, Estonia,
Финляндия, Эстония,
Latvia,
Латвия. Что, Прибалтику?
Lithuania,
Прибалтику перебрал. Он молодец. Откуда сам?
Italian.
Итальянец.
Italian. Я Italian.
Италия. Молодец, вот.
Uh,
Молодой.
In search for place to sleep. No, fine.
Воложине гостиница. Воложен. Недалеко, 5 километров. Гостиница. Можно поспать.
But problem is...
Счастливо.
Пока.
I'm sorry, my English is
No, good. You speak good.
your things can move there.
Okay, perfect. I have everything. I just need the floor. I sleep on the floor. I have mattress. Huh?
Oh, not yet, but we have a bed.
No, but I don't use bed. I don't use bed because I have a problem on my back.
Oh.
And I always sleep on the floor. Here?
Со спиной. Oh, here, you can stay here.
For me, I always sleep on the floor because I have problem here on my back.
Okay.
Hernia. Yeah.
If you want.
Thank you very much. Oh, nice. first time in Belarusian house.
We are living in Minsk.
You live in Minsk? Ah, okay.
Yeah, but, my grandmother lived here, but she died 3 years ago, and this is her house, and we come here on weekend.
Cool.
Weekend from Minsk here, and this village, this village is garden, and we growing vegetables. In 10 minutes we have we're going to eat, and
great.
of course,
sorry for disturbing.
No, join. We want you to join us and eat with us. Okay?
Normally I don't eat in the evening, but I don't want I don't want to make problem because normally I don't eat in the evening.
No, you are lucky today. We have Belarusian food. Please join us. We are very glad. We will be very glad if you join us.
Really? Okay, then I try a little bit.
Okay, in 10, 15 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Racines moitié sortant de terre, en une tempête se livraient ces terres lézardées, ces vallées d'entre les collines, et jusque dans la pesanteur des blocs de rochers, il y avait une tempête pétrifiée. À présent, je pouvais, de tableau en tableau, ressentir quelque chose, sentir ce qui liait ces œuvres, faisait sentir une couleur vivait l'une par l'autre, comment l'une d'une mystérieuse puissance supportait les autres, et je pouvais en tous l'âme de celui qui se faisait et qui répondait pour lui-même par cette vision au spasme savoir, vous fait pénétrer. Je voulais jouir des précipices et des cimes, du dehors et du dedans, le tout dans le 10 millième de temps qu'il me faut pour écrire. Couleur. Couleur. Le mot à présent me paraît misérable. Je crains de ne pas m'être fait comprendre de toi, comme je le souhaiterais. Je désire ne rien favoriser en moi qui puisse isoler des hommes. Mais à vrai
Potatoes fields. People collect potatoes. Take pictures. I'm in the city center now. It seems all unreal. It looks like to be in a fairy tale or in a cartoon, because those buildings are kind of artificial. And also the street, it is the grass. And you can really see that there is someone or something behind each building. That wants like to impress you, to show you some kind of power. The same with the lights. Buildings are lighting up. a way that you rest from them. But actually they are regular buildings, they're not really made in a sophisticated architectural technique. Skyscrapers that are actually quite low, at least the one that I see now. It's really funny because I see a lot of expensive cars, or really expensive cars, or really old cars, but here in the center you don't see the old cars, you see the expensive ones. While didn't see any bike yet. Neither bike lanes. I mean, late again. But maybe can make it time. Bicycles most of the cycle in the pedestrian area. Well, the streets are new and large. There is not really traffic, but now it's also 9 o'clock Sunday. I don't know if it's supposed to be this time. People is not really used to see bike touring visitors. Another big building, maybe it's the theater. Not so many people walking the street. The lightning is nice. They like lights in Minsk. Not much maybe outside, but inside. Traffic. I should wait because looks like here it's not really allowed to pass the thread. Then left and right. bit clean and tidy. No dirt on the street. No. And everything written in Cyrillic, yes. That's why I don't actually understand yet. Pedestrian traffic lights, when they are green they also have a timer which tells you the seconds left you have to cross, which is fancy and useful. I guess also in Germany they have the same system. Didn't see police yet. Actually I saw some cars. So police car when I was outside Minsk. Police car with lights on, with the blue and red light on, which almost crashed on a pedestrian crossing, and they even were horning at him because it was a 70 kilometers per hour street where you were not supposed to cross, and he was crossing. It seems a bit boring. Okay, let's say the three adjectives for Minsk. Let's say tidy, boring, and artificial. And except of this, I guess there's not really much communist ideology, like they're just a communist name for the country. They call themselves maybe communist states. I think that there is high difference by social status or by kind of work which you execute. There is even no check what there is actually what I heard from the houses, so there is no unemployment money, or it's little, or even if you are unemployed you have to pay to the state and taxes. Like public cars, some of them are new, some of them are old, but the old ones are quite exotic to me because they were made during the Soviet Union. One of the brands is Lada, which is Russia, Soviet Union brand. Taxi cars behind me. I thought it was the police car, because I don't even know how the police would react by me cycling in the car street while there is a lane for bikes but it's not really in good shape. I mean, it's too far, it's not practical. It's for tourist bikers, not for travelers and practical like I. Maybe the taxis are police. Maybe taxis are not just taxis, maybe they're police. Maybe a bit. Could be possible. Okay, it's 9. I'm almost arrived. Just a bit faster. Get there.
The next step is not acting too excited or too.
Yeah, different. Of course, it's always different. Any place that you imagine in your mind before visiting it will be always different than what you visit afterwards. Even if you saw it by pictures, videos, and had friends talking about it, it will always be different. And this is different than what I thought. But I was unsure. I thought I would imagine it like completely commercialized, or still completely communist style, Soviet Union style. And of course, it's neither of the two. But there is the nice thing of the city is that there is a lot of space for green parks, public areas, at least that. But it's a bit too sterile, like too made up. Like you get the feeling that things are more things are more made up for aesthetics than for real. Okay, now to cross the train, I guess. I don't know if I can get through. Let's see. Pedestrian areas, they're not really the best. There are many holes, pedestrian roads, in the pedestrian roads. It's under the bridge, there is pedestrian sidewalk which is 50 centimeters large and full of holes. Bike lane 0. But they make a nice decoration to the grass of the bridge. Yeah, and all around. Yeah, it reminds me actually of the pictures I saw from North Korea. Yes. You see that the two guys are friends, Luka Shenko and the other fat guy. Okay, I'm almost arrived, just 5 minutes. Alright. Actually, I arrived to Minsk. Accomplished my mission, and even though I had super extreme pain to my knee, still I am here. Okay. Place. Should know where it is. What's this called? Place, let's see. Let's check. Place. Raketa. Okay. Shop. Raketa paket. Cinema. It's late. What she said. Sorry guys, do you speak English? So? Okay, I've fixed the problem. Thank you very much. Hello.
Hello, Luka.
Nice to meet you.
From Italy, okay?
Yeah, thank you, Stanislav. A bit late, sorry, but I had problem. The tire broke, did reparation.
Сейчас, Алиса. Okay.
I had to, yeah. Great. Stanislav, I need a bank to take the money.
Okay.
I don't have money here, I need the bank.
Alisa speak.
Okay. Okay, just need a few more minutes. Right. This is the outskirts of Minsk. By night,
pretty much everywhere else.
Okay, I'm in Minsk and it's dark. It's dark because I'm a bit out of the schedule. I was supposed to arrive around 7, but now it's 8:30 and I'm not arrived yet because the road was really in bad shape and I had to walk, like mostly was driving, I was cycling mostly on those roads without any pavement in the forest actually. Then I was walking and not cycling. This took much more time, and then after just half an hour ago one tire was flat, I had to repair it, and also I had to contact my host. Now the memory of my phone is full and it's dark. I cannot even take pictures or videos of the road. The entrance is Minsk, because actually I was before outside Minsk and there was a village which I thought was like a small town which I thought was Minsk, but it was not. That's why the village where I was before was another, I don't even remember the name. But I thought it was already the city. I just passed, I think, the residential area, like the rich area, wealthy area of the city, where there was those kind of big houses, villa-like. Now I'm officially inside Minsk, but this is still the most external part of the city. It's dark and I hope there will be some street lights. Later I have to close the video because I don't have the memory in the phone left.